They think when the Super Bowl comes on that it's big. But I don't think they realize how big it actually is. I think you can see that from the ticket prices. I think you wouldn't do that for a Super Bowl, surely. I mean, it's America; they're all about money. But they might do that for their own stuff. And I can kind of also see why the ticket prices are what they are, because you've got so many people that you know the stadium's going to fill up. But it is so wrong to do that to these countries, let's say like Bosnia, who might want to come over and see. You know, I heard about Qatar that people would give you a visa if you come in to watch the football. And there's like a mutual understanding of the passion of the game. A mutual understanding of how important this actually is. You know, like I said, they think Messi's big. I mean, obviously, could be the best player in the world. So he is big. But you don't even understand when it comes to club football how big things are. How big United are, how big Real Madrid are, how Barcelona, Bayern Munich. You've got all these massive teams. And I just think they'd love it if they got involved in it. Obviously, it's probably not convenient time-wise for them to watch the stuff. But it fascinates me because what do we miss about their country, about their side? You know, we take the piss about how patriotic they are. God bless America. You know what I mean? There's that weird that weird passion for the country that we necessarily can't relate. We see it as a bit cringy. But it's the same. You've got a hooligan in the fucking pub. They'd be looking at them and going, "You wild motherfucker. What is wrong with you? Why are you getting so passionate?" But that's our thing. That's been our thing for such a long time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for clicking on the video. Just want to let you know, I also post this on Spotify. If you want to listen to it instead, or you don't end up finishing the video, you can listen on there. And I post the best bits from each video on TikTok, Shorts, Instagram. So check them out as well. But yeah, enjoy. So today we're going to talk about the World Cup. I'm going to talk about football in America. What they would call soccer. Which is one so stupid to call it that. But well, we won't judge too much. And I'm curious because I'm seeing these videos on TikTok of the English, the Scottish in America, and we're doing our chants, we're being English, we're being British, the usual knobheads, the chanting, and I think people aren't used to it. And I think it goes to show that maybe Americans don't understand the culture of football. I mean, we all over here know the sort of perception of Americans. They exaggerate a bit, they think they're the best and whatever. And I think they believe, obviously, their sports are the best, their athletes are the best. UFC commentator and heavyweight champion, that heavyweight, whatever division he was in, Daniel Cormier, said that if all the athletes in America took up football, they would be the best country because they win everything in the Olympics, which I think just sums up America's mindset when it comes to football. Because I don't think they truly understand it. I don't think they truly know what football is, especially when it comes from the British and the English perspective. I don't think they realise how passionate we are about our football. It's kind of all we've got, really, if you think about it. I mean, every guy talking to another guy, one of the first questions you ask is, who do you support? And if you don't watch football, you're kind of outcasted a little bit. Not outcasted, but you know what I mean. you probably feel not part of the community. You got other sports like cricket and crap like that, but it's so big in the UK and England that I think it's hard to understand. And I see these videos when it goes over to America, and I wonder, and I'm fascinated by what do they think about it all, because it's not what they're used to. But the majority of the world, football is the passion. You look at Brazil, you look at the passion they show, and you look at Spain, you look at the passion they show for their football, because Brazil has some of the best football players of all time, and well, South America have some of the best football players of all time, and it's so big that I don't think they understand. And I find it so funny when you've got the English in America chanting in pubs, the 9 German bombers, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. I just think it's got to snap them out of their reality of it just being them. And I get it, there's so many people in America in comparison, let's say, to England or the UK, that it's weird to see, because there's not that many of us in comparison, yet we obviously show way more passion. I think we show more passion for a sport like football than they do for their own sports. Could be wrong there. But over here, football is the elite sport. Everyone wants to be a footballer. Everyone does football, or almost everyone. Obviously, like I said, you've got cricket, rugby, and all that jazz. But I think football is the biggest one. And I wonder if it will catch on over there. If this is what makes it catch on, because America have always tried to make football a big sport. You can see that with the players they bring over and the money they spend on them. And like Messi goes over and it increases the popularity. And you've got celebrities turning up to watch the game that he's in. But I don't think they understand what football is, because we watch that and we say, you're kidding yourself. You don't know the sort of finals we've had, this history we've got, the players. And I wonder about Americans watching it on TV and seeing these people, these pundits, and they're like, who the fuck are you? Whereas over here, we know, you've got Thierry Henry, we know who he is. We know what he's done. And it'd be the same if an American footballer came over here on TV and started chatting. We wouldn't care. I mean, Tom Brady to us means nothing. They're sitting there looking at Roy Keane and thinking, who's this guy? And it's different when you don't know the history. And it's fascinating to try and get that across. And I'd be interested to see if this kicks up a bit more of a fuss than you would expect in America. If it goes well, if this World Cup includes greatness in it. I mean, it might do. You've already got the big names scoring. And I wonder if they might put a little bit of respect on it. The fact that football is the biggest sport in the world, and that's without a country like America being involved. I mean, it is being a typical English person talking about football, talking about it this way. But for us, when England comes on, the whole country almost pauses what they're doing to watch. The women watch. The women don't watch football. Most women, should I say, don't watch football. But when England come on, everyone's there. Everyone's in the pub. Everyone's trying to get together. That's why it's a bit annoying that the football's on the times that it's on here. It's on a bit too late for us to gather. I mean, for the full country to gather. Because you've got work in the morning, if you care about that. I wish I didn't care about that, and I could have gone out last night and watched it with my mates and whatever. But it weren't possible because of the time it's on. And it feels a bit disrespectful to put it on at those times. But obviously, That's how it works. That's just what works for them and works for every other country. Because I do wonder about that. That sort of mindset is a bit selfish, because it's like every other country has different times. And they probably experience the same thing as what we're experiencing now at being on late, and it's like a bit inconvenient, but you'll watch. And I'm fascinated by this feeling the World Cup gives. Any World Cup gives this feeling inside you, a little bit of excitement. For me, it's like a slow build. Like England's just won the first game, and that sets it off to be like, well, is it coming home? So everyone says. And it fascinates me, because even if you try and not be interested in it, you can't help but get swept up in the passion, get swept up in the interest. And that's why I wonder, is that going to happen in America? I think it's only going to happen, obviously, if the games are interesting enough. I mean, the group stages aren't too interesting. They're fascinating, but they're not too interesting. It's only once you get into the knockout stages that things start really ramping up. And I wonder how much of an effort in that country there is to talk about the history, to explain what's going on. You know, if you are American and you're watching the football, try and get it on the English channels when, you know, England are playing or whatever. Because they'll explain the history, they'll explain the meaning, you'll hear the passion. Because I see some of the American broadcasts, and it's a bit cringy, or it's a bit, you know, they don't know what they're talking about. It's a bit of a facade. I don't want to be too serious about talking about this in the World Cup, but I can't help but mention it, because it's such a massive thing here. And my point really is, I don't think people in other countries like America see that and understand that. And I think if they got onto the hype, they would understand how big it would be, and they would join onto it. I mean, there's nothing that brings the country together like football. There's absolutely nothing like a sport. And it's funny, because I think we do forget that the full purpose of this is for entertainment. I watch and see Gary Neville sometimes being a pundit, and I think, Jesus Christ, it's not that deep. You've got so much passion, and there's so much hate and criticism for England. It's like, Jesus, this is only for entertainment. But I think it's the feeling of being let down, because we get so excited and so passionate that, let's say we are going to win, that when we are let down, we're so insecure that we criticize every World Cup. Whereas if you thought about it, if we all just, the media and everyone just came together and encouraged them, and it would probably help them out, probably release that pressure a little bit. But obviously, that's not realistic in life. It's not how life goes. And I find it fascinating that every country in the World Cup becomes so passionate about this one thing, about this one sport. I think we take that for granted a little bit. I think we don't see the beauty in that. I mean, the beauty in a small country like Bosnia qualifying for the World Cup, how much that means to them, how much it means to the fans, to the country, how much it must boost the country's morale, or in a sense, bring them together. Make them feel a bit relevant. It is designed for it to distract us. And I think in a sense, it is, or it is at least on my feed. Trump goes to the bottom. The World Cup gets pushed to the top. Instantly, without me having to scroll. The first video I open my phone to is about England. Obviously, I'm English, so it is going to come up. But it's so big. And I don't think, like I said, America knows the magnitude of how big it is. I think about this, and I think about the people that do podcasts. How much of a prime time this is to get people on your podcast that will do massive numbers, that people will be so interested in. Can you imagine Terry and me going on Joe Rogan or something like that? Gary Neville and Joe Rogan. Could you imagine? Could you imagine the memes, for one? But could you imagine how interested people would be? And it's like a gap in the market people don't see over there. America think, like I said, they think their sports are big. They think when the Super Bowl comes on that it's big. But I don't think they realize how big it actually is. I think you can see that from the ticket prices. I think you wouldn't do that for a Super Bowl, surely. I mean, it's America; they're all about money. But they might do that for their own stuff. And I can kind of also see why the ticket prices are what they are, because you've got so many people that you know the stadium's going to fill up. But it is so wrong to do that to these countries, let's say like Bosnia, who might want to come over and see. You know, I heard about Qatar that people would give you a visa if you come in to watch the football. And there's like a mutual understanding of the passion of the game, a mutual understanding of how important this actually is. You know, like I said, they think Messi's big. I mean, obviously, could be the best player in the world. So he is big. Well, you don't even understand when it comes to club football how big things are, how big United are, how big Real Madrid are, how Barcelona, Bayern Munich. You've got all these massive teams. And I just think they'd love it if they got involved in it. Obviously, it's probably not convenient time-wise for them to watch the stuff. But it fascinates me because what do we miss about their country, about their side? You know, we take the piss about how patriotic they are. God bless America. You know what I mean? There's that weird that weird passion for the country that we necessarily can't relate. We see it as a bit cringy. But it's the same. You've got a hooligan in the fucking pub. They'd be looking at them and going, "You wild motherfucker. What is wrong with you? Why are you getting so passionate?" But that's our thing. That's been our thing for such a long time. But yeah, was just thinking about how it feels a bit funny that it's in America. How it feels a bit funny that, to be fair, a lot of the content I watch, a lot of the influence on me is American things, your programmers, your YouTubers, your podcasts. That when something like this goes over there, it feels a bit strange and funny because it feels like they miss it. Like they're in their own bubble. Whereas us in Europe, let's say, you know, I go to Portugal. First thing you talk about with someone who doesn't even really speak English is football. Who do you support? That's how big it is. That's how connected we all are over it. But yeah. Thanks for watching. Peace.